For me, the Bach Siloti B Minor Prelude is an absolutely fabulous piece. And today I'd like to share with you what I learned about it when I was lucky enough to attend an online performance workshop recently. So are you sitting comfortably? Then let's begin. Hi, this is Tommy with Tommy's Piano Corner, the place for returning pianists, or indeed anybody who loves piano, to share tips and ideas of how to get the best from this great hobby. If it's your first trip here, then please do think about subscribing. Simply hit the little button in the right-hand corner of your screen now, and it's all done for you. Regular viewers will know I released a video a while ago now about using things such as this B minor prelude as an alternative to sort of dry five-finger exercises. Because ultimately, whilst I know some people don't like this particular kind of approach, I really find that it's so much easier on the ear to be able to focus on developing, your evenness in your fingers whilst listening to something that is much more, attractive, shall we say, than a standard exercise that you'll find in many books. And then very recently, I was lucky enough to be able to get hold of a ticket for an online performance workshop, which was hosted by Graham Fitch. Now, if you're a regular viewer again, you'll have heard me speak about Graham countless times. I bought his piano practice ebook series. I'm a member of his online academy, and I really do enjoy his work. So it was great for me to get this opportunity. And I thought that I would actually present this particular prelude because I reckon I played it sort of okay enough, but it would be interesting to see what extra stuff could be brought to it. Following my performance of the piece, the first comment Graham made was around my choice of tempo, and in fact he asked me what was making me choose that particular tempo. I thought that perhaps nerves were making me play a little fast, but didn't really think that I was rushing the piece necessarily. But then when he demonstrated the kind of tempo that he would feel the piece at, it was clear that I was going much faster than this, and I did agree that it did sound a lot better when slowed down. After the workshop, I decided to research the tempo a little bit more myself, and there are two excellent sort of reference recordings, if you like, that you'll find on YouTube. One's by Gilels and the other one is by Sokolov. And you'll see that these pianists actually both have a very different idea of the kind of tempo that you might use. And when you compare the two, Sokolov plays in places sort of 20% faster than Gilels. And I thought that, maybe I was playing at the sort of Sokolov-type tempo. And I was quite surprised to find that when I then listened back to my performance at the workshop, I was even 20% faster than him. So clearly going at a fair rate of knots. One thing that did come interesting, for me at least, is that generally, I'll find having to play something faster is more difficult than playing it slower. However, with this particular piece, when you slow it down even more, keeping that evenness becomes much more difficult because literally there's nowhere to hide. And this then leads nicely onto the next part of the feedback that Graham gave me. Before the performance, Graham was asking, what kind of things are you specifically looking for advice on? And I said that I still, even though I've been using this to try to develop sort of evenness in five-finger patterns, I didn't feel that it was even as it could be in all places. As a possible solution to this, Graham pointed out, why didn't I think about using fingers 2, 3, and 4 rather than 3, 4, and 5, as of course controlling fingers 2, 3, and 4 is much easier to do than controlling 3, 4, and 5. However, I said that the reason I'd gone with the specific choice of fingering that I had is that because my hands are quite small, I wanted to try and avoid playing with sort of more open hand positions wherever possible. So in that way, I wanted to really try to maintain the 3, 4, 5 in quite a few of the places. So Graham then suggested that, okay, that's fine. If you want to do that, then maybe what you need to do is think about introducing a little bit of rotation. Now, interestingly, he did compliment me on the fact that my hands were relatively mobile whilst I was doing this, rather than being locked into a fixed position. But he said that if you use a little bit of rotation, especially when 5 is playing, it will help to make the pattern much more secure. I tried it out during the workshop and I found it a little awkward to do, but later on, you know, at home on my own, when I was able to spend a bit more time and practice it a little more carefully, I found that actually it works really, really well, and it's not that difficult to introduce. I'm not saying that I do it completely automatically now, but at least it's something I know I can work on, and I know that will help me get better at keeping this nice and even and flowing. We then discussed a little bit about the tradition of playing this piece. And I mean, I was already aware that whilst the piece is, you know, written to just be repeated with the same notes twice, when Siloti played it, the way he would do it is that the first pass, he would focus on the right hand pattern, and this is what your ears would pick out as being, you know, the predominant part of the piece. However, on the repeat, he would then relegate that right hand pattern right into the background and basically bring out the melody notes, which are played by the thumbs in either hand. Now, I thought I was sort of doing this perhaps not brilliantly, but it was definitely there. However, what Graham did is he said to try and think about giving it more shape. So rather than just bring those melody notes out, give shape to them as well. And he demonstrated with just the opening bars of how you can get, you know, sort of more breath into it with a gentle rise and fall between the notes. However, and this is where things get really interesting, is he then went on to explain that simply shaping the melody on its own isn't enough. And the way I sort of understood from what he was saying is, if you think about it, you've got accompaniment notes in the left hand and you've got accompaniment notes in the right hand. Now, if these notes, when they're all combined together and the pedals pressed down, generate quite a lot of noise, then the only way to make the melody sing above them is to play that even louder. And that's fine, but the shaping then becomes more difficult because you've got less dynamic range, if you like, to be able to create that shape. So what Graham was saying is that you need to focus on reducing the accompaniment volumes, both in the left and in the right hands, so that you create, if you like, more headroom for yourself to be able to beautifully shape the melody. And to be able to do this myself, he gave me a few exercises to start doing at home. And they were basically, the first one was to take the opening bars where the left hand plays the melody as well as the accompaniment and practice for some time by not playing the melody with the left hand thumb, but moving it into the right hand thumb, just for practice purposes, obviously, and focus really hard on getting as much separation as possible between the accompaniment notes and the melody notes so that you're able to get a better shape. Now, at first I wasn't exactly sure what he was driving at, as it sounded sort of a little counterintuitive, I guess, but when I started implementing this idea at home, I did find that it makes a really big difference. And by enabling your left hand to have less to need to do, if you like, it means it gets easier and easier to be able to generate that separation. And I wouldn't say I'm 100% of the way there yet, but I can already feel a difference with it. And then, of course, in a similar vein, you can practice then just the left hand, trying to keep it as soft as possible, with only the melody notes that are played in the rest of the piece by the right hand thumb. Keeping up with this theme of keeping separation, if you like, or space between the accompaniment and the melody, Graham then gave me some ideas about the right hand. And one thing he said that works really well is to practice it using a ghosting technique. I think ghosting was the term he used. And basically what this means is, rather than actually playing the notes, you let your fingers touch each key exactly as you intend to touch it at the time you intend to touch it, but you make sure that it doesn't sound. Now this, I think, is more difficult to do than it sounds. I mean, my piano, I don't think has a particularly light action. It's, you know, it's all sort of average. But yeah, even just making sure that I touch each individual key without pressing it and without making it sound is really, really difficult to do and really good exercise. And whilst I can't do this all the time particularly perfectly, I have really noticed that it's helping me to make that right hand much, much lighter when I play, and of course therefore creating much more space to be able to do more with the melody notes as opposed to just bringing them out as loudly as I can. Of course, trying to do all of these different things simultaneously does become a bit of a brain overload in some cases. To overcome this, what I decided to do was to use my supercharge methodology, if you like, and I'll release a video on that soon. But effectively, it's a way of trying to implement all of the practice suggestions together, but by using very, very small sections of it. So for this piece, I found that, 4-bar, 4-measure sections were perfect. So taking the first 4 bars as an example, start first by replacing the left hand thumb with the right hand and working on the separation as we discussed. Then work on the entire left hand as written, but trying to keep the separation previously gained. Work on the right hand at a medium volume, but of course paying specific attention to the motion and the rotation. Then play as you intend to play it in the first pass, highlighting the right hand pattern and not the melody. Work on ghosting the right hand pattern. And then playing through as intended for the second repeat. And of course you can do these exercises in any order you wish and repeat them as often as you feel you need. Then simply when moving on to the remainder, the only thing we really need to change is to practice the left hand with only the right hand thumb, focusing on the phrasing. And then playing the melody with the right hand thumb whilst ghosting the rest of the pattern. What I find is that by sticking to such small segments such as 4 bars at a time and using all of these exercises in sort of rotation whilst you're doing it, you're able to get to the point where you can play that segment exactly as you feel you want to be able to perform it later. And of course, because you're not spending a protracted period, for example, just playing the entire thing through with one hand at a time, it keeps your brain more actively engaged in the entire process. Well, I hope you'll find all of these ideas useful for taking this piece to the next level if you're working on it at the moment. I mean, it's a lot of effort, it's quite difficult to do, but I think the end result will be well worth it. If you're not already, then please do subscribe to Tommy's Piano Corner. Don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you're notified of new videos as and when they're released. I thank you very much for watching and look forward to seeing you very soon.